Welcome back to the coffee show, everyone. Take two of this podcast because, believe it or not, we recorded for about an hour yesterday. The whole thing corrupted. The file got deleted, and Yannis Apostolopolous, who is joining me now, was kind enough to join us again. Welcome to the coffee show, Yannis.
It's my pleasure and an honor, and things happen, man. That's life.
World of Coffee's been a success, hasn't it?
It's been, I think, the most successful show we ever had as SCA. Until yesterday, we had more than 20,000 people.
Christ. Okay, that's a lot. And you just announced Bangkok yesterday as well.
Yes.
So we're going to Bangkok next year.
Very exciting. Like, this is a booming market. I think Indonesia and Bangkok, they both share the fact that specialty coffee is booming, both producing countries and with an amazing coffee scene.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, listen, biggest thing on everyone's mind right now, biggest talking point in, I'd say, specialty coffee is the changing of the CVA protocols, if you will. So it's gone from a predominantly points-based system that was done on sort of one page, sort of brief in nature, but to this day it's been effective. And you're changing to a much more, I guess, holistic approach. So although not every single page is necessary for a cupping sort of thing, the protocol's changing. So if we could go through again kind of the history of I guess the CVA and why you're changing it, and then we'll go through it as quickly as we can.
Perfect. And I'm grateful that you're saying is changing. We say it's the evolution of the Q program. And the Q program was a program that was created some years ago to actually create and allow people to have a common language about how we evaluate coffee. And the history is like this. CQI was kind of created out of SCA some years ago, SCAA, to be able to teach cupping to producing countries and producers so that it can have a common language between buyers and sellers. And that was based on the SCAA cupping protocol that was completed on the form that we have been using all these years, around 2004. What we tried to do, starting around 2020, around the pandemic, we said, this is a standard that we as an industry have not reviewed for almost like 20 years, 15 years back then. And ISO, the International Standards Organization, says that it's a good practice to review your standards every 3 years. We have 20 years of sensory science, of like progress in data and how we process data. And we never took that into consideration on how we evaluate coffee. And we came with a judgmental, I would say, view on, does the system that we have created serve the purpose? And we talked to a lot of producers, a lot of cuppers, a lot of buyers, and we start designing the evolution of the previous form. So this is not something that happened yesterday. It's been 5 years in the process. The actual standard was adopted in November 2024. We presented, though, the first versions of the form somewhere in 2022. The alpha versions in a closed circle, we brought in to the very public around Expo in Portland, and we said those are the beta versions, and we are expecting feedback. We received the feedback, we changed things. We're still receiving feedback, and we know that there are things that we need to make better, like we know that there are references to, for example, Robusta that are missing on our check all that apply, and we're going to incorporate that very soon. So it's something that has been into works for many years.
So you've sort of been developing this and getting consultation about it for a few years, to
Yes.
say, because you've personally received a lot of criticism for a lot of people are saying it's been rushed too quick and all these sorts of things. So
I don't think that people, they don't realize maybe the work that has been put behind it to develop. And we have received a lot of feedback. We released a white paper around 2021 about the role of the cupper in the coffee industry. And we also understood how cuppers should serve the industry so that we extract more value out of coffee on every part of the value chain. So we have been working on that. And what it boiled down to is that we need to have a bigger picture, a bigger resolution picture, a higher resolution picture of what coffee is. And we are doing 4 different type of assessments. We're doing the physical assessment, the physical defect assessment, which is practically grading. Then we're doing a descriptive assessment, which we're practically describing what we're tasting. And this is 100% objective. We base that out of the World Coffee Lexicon that was developed by World Coffee Research and Texas A&M. And there we can go back and say what I'm tasting, identify it in coffee, and the intensity. And this we can be 100% sure. Then we have the affective assessment, which is how much we like something. And I want to talk a bit about the affective, because people are saying, but we're calibrating. Calibration, maybe it's a wrong word. I'm an engineer, and I know that if I need to calibrate something, I need to have the prototype. For example, we have the prototype kilo, and if we put the kilo on every scale in the world, we can calibrate them. But we don't have a prototype coffee, which we say, this is the 100 coffee. It's completely subjective. The coffees that I like coming from Greece are different from the coffees you like or the coffees that Boram likes. So it's completely subjective. But if I like something and I mark that, I can give a signal to someone that I'm more willing to pay for it in a higher value. So the affective is something that we can align between 2 people or a smaller group of people on what we like for the consumers we're buying. Then we have the extrinsic. We know that in coffee, we just don't appreciate what is in the cup, but what is outside the cup. The extrinsic attributes of coffee. What is the process? If there are certifications, some people like their coffee to be, UTZ certified or Rainforest Alliance certified. So there are certifications that people might find that they have a value for them. But it doesn't mean that has value for everyone. But we need to capture that so that when we assess the value of coffee, we understand what we are appreciating. So this is practically a new paradigm on how you assess the value in coffee.
Okay, so one by one, you've just kind of gone through the first 4 pages of the new, how we say it, coffee valuation assessment.
Value assessment. System.
Coffee value assessment. Then there's the combined form at the end. In practice, if I'm at a farm, if I'm visiting a farm, for example, and I want to host a cupping with the new protocol, can I just use the combined form and that's sufficient? Because I think a big argument that a lot of people are making is like, how am I supposed to host a cupping now?
So science tells us, no matter what we feel as human beings, that we can multitask, that we cannot multitask. And sensory science says you need to be doing the assessments separately. So you can easily hear on a cupping table, so I tasted 3 coffees. I liked the third one. It was more floral and fruity, and that's the coffee that I like most. So we're doing 3 assessments simultaneously, discriminative assessment. So I tried 3 different coffees. So I like the third one, which is again discriminative. You're saying it was more floral and fruity, so it's a descriptive assessment. And then I like the third one most, so that's an affective assessment. So we're doing all that together. So what practically this form is doing, or this system is doing, is separating that. You need to be doing that. You can take the grading separately from the descriptive, and the affecting, you can do it later. We have taken the time, because we're talking about data. And what does this system offers? This system, at the end of the day, is envisioned to bridge the information gap that we have between buyers and sellers. What we have done early on, we went to LANIA. LANIA is a laboratory for advanced information technology in Mexico that they have done work with agro-commodities before. And we designed a database to capture all these attributes. Because the more we know about something, the more we appreciate it. And what they've done is created a database for us. And on top of that, they created an API that many cupping apps can use and connect with the database. And we have already cupping apps like Catador that they are doing that.
It does kind of seem to me like the best way to implement this now would be off an app, because I mean, I'd struggle.
Yes.
My TikTok brain would go from 1 page, 5 pages, and I don't know if I'll self-destruct. But it does kind of seem like app-based software will be the best.
It's designed to be for both. For
Okay.
both paper, because sometimes we might not have access to an app or whatever, and online. But the idea is to collect the data and then give access to researchers to use the data to let us do kind of like consumer preference mapping so that the producers know where to sell their coffee and to extract more value of their coffee. We're not going to monetize the data.
That's been a big concern of people. I even spoke to a producer this morning that, I mean, I don't know where they got the information from, but their concern is, well, the SEA is becoming a business, and that the core value is like, a lot of people see this as a money grab. So,
Well, that's very interesting. I know that a lot of people, and especially Q graders, Q instructors, not Q graders, that they have done an amazing job all these years educating a lot of people on cupping. They might be more upset because practically we're changing the business model for them, and I respect that. What we're trying to do is to make cupping a common language based on a new standard that we are developing the old standard. So it's not that we're killing the old one to go to the new one. We're evolving. And what we're trying to do is to make it also more accessible. So 2 days ago, we announced the new pricing model. And we used for our pricing the IMF's Purchasing Power Parity per capita index. So we have created different pricing for someone to access our education. So I would say, we created 5 groups. Group 5 being the most wealthy countries, let's say, and Group 1, the more poor countries. So for someone who is taking the Q course, for example, which practically are 2 courses, the physical and then the descriptive/extrinsic, is going to cost in fees to SEA around $200. And the fees that someone has to pay in Burundi is going to be like 16 times 2, which is like $32. So we're trying to make it more accessible. And I hope that people can see through that we're not trying to just drive money. We're trying to make it more accessible because we had created a system that it was a system that was allowing very few that they had the economic, I would say, power or ability to take the classes. So we're trying to make it as most accessible as possible. And I want to say this: it's the first time ever that producing countries are coming to the table to say this is how we want to evaluate the quality of our coffee. So we have Colombia, first of all, come and say, we want to work with you. And actually with Colombia, we're working on creating an app that they can use for port operations as they are cupping all the coffees exported out of Colombia. We had Brazil saying we want to go for the same. And yesterday we had Indonesia saying we want our coffees to be evaluated through CVA. This didn't happen overnight. There have been discussions over many months on how we get there and how we support their communities to have more Q graders and more cuppers in the ground to be able to assess quality and learn how to use the data to trade better.
and look, that all sounds all good, and I think your intentions are in the right place. I would like to see if there is an opportunity for, look, if there, I know that you've got like a tier of pricing for more disadvantaged countries, but if there's any room to sort of do things for free, I mean, I'd love to personally see that, and like, I mean, I'd be happy to, even throw money into that myself.
So this is what we actually did. So one of the things that we committed during Houston, and that might have not been widely communicated, CQI created a coffee development fund. And we went there and we said we want to be patrons of that. So we committed a significant portion of our education revenue every year towards that fund. And we're starting like year one is going to be almost $500,000. to be able to allow CQI to do development work, especially now that there is a void in development work globally with USAID pulling out of funding development work. So we're not just doing it saying we're going to reduce pricing and whoever wants to do it. We're supporting CQI to stay true to their mission to support the farmers and do development work.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, my fear is that I've seen some people say that they don't recognize the new system and they won't. I mean, I'd like to think that everyone will kind of embrace the new way, and obviously you seem steadfast in wanting to do it. If some people feel like they're not ready and there was a genuine sign and you acknowledge that, do you think you would defer from the planned date from October the 1st, or you're steadfast in having that date as the new implementation?
October 1st is the day that we're going to be teaching just the new system.
Okay.
It's not that we're saying it changes everything. It's going to take time for people to get educated, how to use the system, how to extract value of the new system. It's our date where we're saying, you know what? That old standard we had, it's going away, and we're bringing in the new standard, which is an evolution of the old one. And we want to teach people to use it. How the trade is going to adapt to the new standard, it's going to take years. It's not going to happen overnight. But definitely we have producers saying we want to evaluate the quality of our product like this, and we want to start trading based out of this.
So it's not like the old system of Q grading is irrelevant straight away.
No, I think people will still use it. There will be a transition period, but how do we educate the new generation of cappers? How do we educate people that they are already cappers to use the new system? That is the idea. But we don't want to say a system, a standard that we evolved, that we start teaching the old system, the old standard. And yes, we know that we have the new standard, and we're not trying to teach people the new standard.
Well, I get it. Look, I know you've got your next thing you've got to move on to, and we've got another guest over here, world barista champion Boram.
And I'm sorry I took his time.
No. We lost the whole conversation yesterday, so thank you so much for being open to this. And
I appreciate that, and I'm more than happy to have a more relaxed conversation, maybe online.
Yeah,
at a different
well,
time.
look, I think keeping this dialogue about this subject is important, and I think people want to hear from you about it. So if you're open to coming on another time to discuss it further,
Perfect.
we would love to have you. Hopefully we see you in Milan in a few months' time, so that'd be great.
Or Geneva.
Geneva. I don't know if we'll make Geneva. Johan, you want to go to Geneva? I'd love to go to Geneva.
Perfect. Looking forward.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Yannis.
much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
listening to
that.
The Coffee Show.